All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining the final session of today's NWR Vantage Point conference with Codan. Before we hear from Alf Ianello, who's joining us today from the UK, CEO of Codan, a couple of quick reminders. The format of today's presentation is designed to be interactive. We'll aim to hear a quick 5 to 10 minute overview from Alf and the company, followed by a Q&A session, and we would encourage anyone to submit anonymous questions through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We will aim to have today's presentation wrapped up by about 4:25. So without further ado, Alf, I'll pass it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. The intro today, I'll just give a very high level overview of Codan, its three businesses, who we are, and what we do, and what we're going to do in the near term and the long term. So Codan's a globally diversified tech business, really leverages its IP, its global network, and its customer intimacy to win in the markets it serves. It's made up of three core businesses, one being Minelab, which Minelab is a gold recreational and counter mine detecting business. It has, we split into three key markets, being the rest of the world, Africa, and obviously military. Then we have Zetron, which is a mission critical business. Core markets for Zetron are public safety, utilities, and transport. And then we have tactical communications, which really is a high level communication solutions provider into the military, unmanned systems, law and surveillance, and the NGOs and broadcast. Codan's got 15 sites across the world in 10 countries. Through the acquisitions, it's become very much a Northern Hemisphere centric organisation, with 3/4 of our staff being in the Northern Hemisphere, predominantly in the UK and US. 30% of our staff are engineers out of the 700 plus that we do have. Brief history of Codan, for people who have followed the story for quite a while, understand that prior to COVID and during COVID, Codan was fairly much a Minelab story, where 80% of the revenue came through Minelab and 80% of the profits, through two fantastic acquisitions, which were part of our diversification strategy. We acquired Zetron and DTC, and you've seen the organisation really change from a revenue perspective, where 65% of our revenue now comes through comms and 35% comes through Minelab. During that period, we had a significant disruption in Sudan, which Sudan was our largest gold detecting market, and that's come off, and it's still quite subdued. But this is all part of Codan's push to ensure that we are diversified at the revenue line and the equity line. Some key aspects of what's been occurring over the last 18 months. Minelab has released three fantastic recreational detectors, a high-end detector called Manticore, medium-end upgrade to the Equinox 700 and 900, and a low-end Xterra Pro. In that, the reception of those detectors in market have been very strong, and it's really has continued to position Minelab as a market leader across the three markets it serves. DTC continues to push its software-defined radio into markets, leveraging customer relationships in the military across the world. Obviously, some of the geopolitical issues that are occurring at the moment have been favourable for that division, and we continue to work very closely with our customers to ensure they have leading-edge communications. And Zetron has continued to gain market share in the public safety space in the US. And over the last 3 to 4 months, we had a very, I would say, small acquisition in GeoConnects, in line with our strategy of acquiring bolt-on technology businesses or market share gain businesses. And that's been integrated quite well over the last period of time. I guess when you look at Codan moving forward, we are a business that invests heavily in R&D. So 10% of our turnover is spent on R&D. So our ability to leverage our IP positions is important, but we are heavily focused on ensuring that we have a very balanced business. And when we talk about that, we want balance at the revenue line. We want quality of revenue. So we are looking at getting a level of predictability in our revenue line. Not easy in the market segments we exist in, but there is a strategic intent there. Businesses like Zetron have 30% of their turnover in recurring revenue. So we would like to continue to ensure that grows. And that, again, is part of the push to get quality in our revenue line. And more importantly, as these businesses grow, as the comms businesses grow, we need to ensure that we get sufficient operating leverage at the contribution line. And as such, get some equity across the divisions with respect to profitability. So I guess we will continue trying to grow strongly organically, but there's still going to be, we'll still underpin this with an inorganic growth program. So that's the long-term focus. We call that building a stronger Codan. We are lightly leveraged on the balance sheet, so we got strong opportunities at the inorganic front to work through, and then we have a very strong organisation in delivering robust products to the markets. So that being said, Sam, I'll pass it over to you and I'll take some questions.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alf. Got a couple of questions coming through. First of all, on MindLab Rest of World, you touched on some of the new recreational products being launched. Can you just describe how the current sales performance is performing across those new launch products?
Yeah. So with respect to those products, so Manticore is the first really high-end recreational detector that's been released in 10 years. We had a goal of 1,000 detectors being sold per month. We are exceeding that at the moment. So actually we're in a backlog situation. As most people know, when you ramp up for a product launch, you have to make an assumption. And obviously the markets thinks the product's quite good. Equinox 700, 900. So the Manticore sales are incremental. Equinox 700 and 900, it's an upgrade to our Equinox 600, 800 family. There's a bit of cannibalization there, but still being well received in market. I would say the real surprise has been Xterra Pro, which really has been brought out as a competitive play against some of our competitors in Europe, and it's a low end detector, and it's performed well, and it's got great reviews in markets. So it's part of our play to bring recreational detectorists at the bottom of the funnel and then upgrade them through the cycle and the range of detectors. So yeah, they've been quite good.
Thank you. And just on that recreational market, there's obviously been plenty of headlines around the impact of inflation and higher cost of living. Do you think that's why you've seen people come in on the lower priced product, or are you seeing any more sort of concerns with the discretionary market in general?
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on it. At this point in time, we're not seeing it. I think at the high end of detectorists, these are people of probably my vintage of people, and so probably have some disposable income. We're in this area, and this concern will be at the lower end. And at this point in time, no major impacts, but it is something we're keeping a very close eye on.
Right, thank you. And just changing gears to the broadcast market, should we expect this segment to grow going forward, and any key initiatives you're focused on within that market?
Yeah, the broadcast is interesting. We would be in the segment we play in. It is a smaller sort of total addressable market, and we would be in the top 2 players globally. We are winning some major programs, some large golfing events and car racing events, and we're growing off a small base, but still it is growing. In order for this to grow more, we need to push into some of the adjacent markets like remote production, which we are investigating. But it's definitely been a very good acquisition for us, because we need to remember we acquired BWS only just over 12 months ago.
Got you, thank you. And just a couple of questions coming in on Africa. Any update on the progress with respect to the African exposure this half, and in particular Sudan?
Yep. So Sudan, for people that read the news, has gone from bad to worse, almost in a, it's in this. So it was no sales in H1, it will be no sales in H2. However, the West Africa, we have seen the supply chains go back to normal. We're seeing pull through from a dealer network back into markets. So we've been very clear in our commentary that we believe West Africa is back to pre-COVID levels run rate, and that's what we're seeing.
Okay, great, thank you. And just on the military exposure in general, obviously Codan's exposed to global military spend, both across the mine lab business in countermine as well as tactical comms. From a group perspective, any idea of the percentage of revenue from derived from military?
Yeah, it is interesting. I think our exposure is probably 10%. Probably a market segment we would like to grow. Obviously, we've had a major Australian Defence Review occur that hasn't adversely impacted the programs we were shortlisted on. So it's just something we need to keep plugging away at. It's all relationship and time and being involved in test programs, but with the movement of DT, with the acquisition of DTC and being heavily exposed to the US now, it's definitely a market we'll focus on.
Okay, great, thank you. How do you think about any additional inorganic opportunities going forward?
I think it's we've always said we want to be prudent. We want to do it in a sensible way, and we need to ensure that we just got the resources and capability to keep onboarding. So the last 4 acquisitions, I would suggest, have been highly successful. And anything we're looking at going forward, again, it's adjacent markets, technology gaps that will assist the organisation growing its top line.
Okay, thanks. And you mentioned the last 4 acquisitions, specifically just on GeoConnects. I think you announced that the morning of the results at the half. You recently completed that. Any additional comment around how the business is performing and integrating within the business?
Yeah, I was with the GeoConnects guys in the States only a week and a half ago, and yeah, they're integrating. We're going through the the standard 90-100 day plan. All seems it's all going quite well. It's not an organisation we didn't know. We've had long tenure with them over a decade, so we understand the tech, we understand the people, so it's coming together.
Great, thank you. You've talked about hitting 30% profit before tax margins in comms. Is it a slow burn rate to get there, or should we expect margin expansion this half and into FY24?
Yeah, we get asked that question quite a bit. I think when we talk about margin expansion this half, we've been quite clear that we've been targeting that 25%. That's an increase in 21% last year, and we achieved it earlier than expected. We achieved it in December. I think our goal is to maintain that for this year, and then see it grow over the next 18 months.
Okay, great, thank you. And just on alternate jurisdictions, at the half-year results, you talked about India as a growing nation, albeit coming from a low base. How's India performing in any other countries that you're sort of more acutely focused on?
Yeah, so yeah, I've been on the road for almost a month. So my first stop was India, and it was fantastic to see the market. It's just a vibrant market for us. We visited some of our dealers. So we're expanding our dealer network. We're doing some work at an e-commerce point of view, so India has gone from the modest of $46,000 a month to, I think, $146,000 a month now. So we believe we could get it to $1 million market over the next 18 months. And I think that'll be fantastic, considering there was really no market there. And it just shows the strength of MindLab. MindLab's had an ability over a long period of time to generate interest in the product, create a market, and then create a network around that market. So yeah, quite positive. On the comm side, we've been heavily the geopolitical situation in Ukraine has helped us from a Zetron perspective, not Zetron, a DTC perspective, and also a counter mining perspective. Yeah, and that I think that conflict will continue for the next 12 to 18 months after being in briefings in the States on it. Yeah, MindLab at the moment is heavily focused on those emerging markets like India and continuing its good work in South America.
Okay, thank you. Just turning towards inventory. MindLab inventories were elevated following disruptions, obviously, you've spoken to within the African market. How is this progressing in terms of unlocking cash flow?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question on inventory. So the major issue we had in inventory was gold inventory and gold inventory for Africa. So that has come down because we were able to stop some supply chain coming through, but it has actually started to come down. On the flip side, when you're launching 3 new products, you need to invest. You need to have product in the pipe. So, I'm quite happy the work we've done on the gold detection side, and we've been quite consistent. That's a 12 to 18 month journey to get it back to normal operating levels.
Great, thanks. And just sort of taking a reflection, Alf, from you personally, you've been in the seat now for 18 months. You've sort of built the team around you. Are there any gaps you'd like to fill within the sort of broader team?
At the moment, I think the team's a strong team. There's always areas where we're focused on, and we are focused on certain areas, which I won't elaborate in, but it's all driven by our strategic intent. So anything that we're going to invest in from a people perspective are there to sort of grow our strategic plan moving forward. Yeah, we'll be... that's ongoing. The greatest restriction to growth is people. It's usually not capital, it's more people. That's my view. So, and we've for the first time, we've got a senior HR executive on the board, or not on the board, on our executive team, because we've gone from having 250 people to 700 plus, and most of those people in the Northern Hemisphere. So we need to continue to develop the next generation of people, ensure we've got robust, processes, and become an employer of choice, because, in some markets it's hard to retain and get good people.
Great, thank you. And I think maybe just time for one more question I've got coming in here. How can we think about free cash flow generation going into next year?
Well, I think we're going to get back to that normal Codan cash flow situation where we're generating cash. We're not investing heavily again in inventory, which we've done over the last 24 months, and then we've had this African issue occur, which really has locked us down a bit. But I only can see it improving from where we finished the full year at.
Okay, great. And then I think just one final question. How have you seen the sort of share register change over the last 6 months? Any additional commentary around that?
We've been focused on ensuring the share register is balanced, but from the significant portion that's locked from previous owners or founders and senior executives, that remains the same. So at that end, not much has changed. At the other end, you know, the business we're in, you got people that come in and out, and you got long-term people that stay. And so I think the people that have stayed since the AGM, which was a major reset, you know, they're still on the register, and we've had some interest from some overseas organisations as well. So, but it is a focus.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I think that's about it for the questions today. If there are any follow-up questions from the audience, or you'd like to connect with Alf and the rest of the management team, please feel free to reach out. And maybe I'll just pass it back to you, Alf, if you've got any closing comments.
No, sorry, Sam. No, I guess as an organisation, you know, we're heavily focused on, you know, keeping this diversification strategy going, growing the 3 businesses we're in, ensuring that we're releasing good products and growing. You know, we're heavily focused on growing, and growing sensibly and prudently. So that's about it. It's a strong business. It's always been a strong business. We're just making it stronger at the moment.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Thanks, Alf, for joining early morning in the UK. And that completes day 1 of our NWR Vantage Point conference. Thanks very much for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.